Over the years of TF2's lifespan, Valve has made some fucking atrocious balancing decisions. Obviously, some examples could be seen, like, there's, like, the Ambassador, there's the Bonk Atomic Punch, there's the complete gutting of the reserve shooter on Pyro, the Dragon's Fury, which got fucking nerfed, what, like, 2 years after its release, even though it was never a broken weapon. And again, like, they also gave it this weird property where you can only get the max damage if you hit the center of the hitbox, which I believe is, what, like 1 pixel? And there's more as well, like the Olapool Caber, like, just going to a completely useless weapon when it was originally a meme weapon. Granted, back then it could drop meds, but now it can't even drop snipers anymore unless if you, like, fucking, what, like, melee them in the feet, and even then that's like a 40% chance of it actually happening. But I don't think there's actually a more unjust, more undeserved raping and killing of a character in this game like there was towards Heavy during the 2014 ramp-up nerf. The other nerfs, you could maybe say, okay, well, at least they were just nerfs to the unlocks, even if those unlocks were extremely helpful to the class, like the fucking Ambassador, and it also, like, negatively impacted the game's health, as Sniper lost another check, because guess what? Back then, Razorback, you just couldn't stab a Sniper if he was just, like, near a sentry or anything like that, if he had it on. But it wasn't a problem because you could always just double headshot him or headshot and body shot him with the Ambassador. But at the same time, Spy, as a class, his general core mechanics weren't nerfed. Pyro, he lost a lot of good tools. R.I.P. Dragon's Fury. R.I.P. fucking... R.I.P. Old Reserve Shooter. R.I.P. Old Extinguisher. But as a class, he hasn't actually gotten, like, nerfed. Outside of, like the Afterburn nerf, which really wasn't, like, that consequential in 2018. You know, it's really funny because for this quote-unquote Pyro update, they did a lot to just, like, make the class, like, worse. After fixing, like, Air Blast and stuff. They haven't even fixed the way his flames worked since, like, the beginning of the fucking game, because if you don't know, he just vomits out a fucking hitbox. There's supposed to be, like, some kind of damage ramp up where he does more damage up close. That just doesn't exist. He just, like, spits out these flames that don't actually do that much damage. So even a fucking engineer could two-tap him with a shotgun. But even then, at the very least, he wasn't, like, unfairly gutted for, like, nothing. The Heavy, on the other hand, was absolutely gutted and murdered and killed over fucking nothing. So when people describe Heavy as a class, they often refer to him as, like, oh, nobody plays him, he's the most, like, linear class, he doesn't really have, like, that many playstyles. And I've actually been hearing something along the lines of that, like, back then, right? Even, like, during, like, 2013, that was, like, you could find forums where people were still complaining about, like, Heavy, like, being boring, like, even before Love and War. But at the very least, he was solidly not weak. You still had to, you know, like, fear a Heavy when you fucking saw him, and he still did his job, like, admirably as, like, a last line of defense if, like, an engineer sentry falls or something like that. So already, as a class, he didn't really have that many options to play. He didn't really get a Demo Knight playstyle. Like, even, like, the difference between, like, a soldier with a shotgun or gunboats, he didn't have. He obviously wasn't a generalist. He was a power class specialist, which already puts him in a weird spot competitively. And not only that, but he's very slow. So that was already something keeping him in check, right? That was already something keeping him in check. But the two things that always defined the Heavy were strength and survivability. And those two kind of, like, kept, like, him hand in hand with the other classes, because again, he couldn't move, but the idea was that, like, when he was healthy, you basically, like, just could never take him in a fucking 1v1, right? That was the idea behind him. Like, you had to, like, team up to get his ass. So heavy always kind of played very like honorably compared to other classes because again, other class I compare him the most to, I'd say, is Pyro, as they both use automatic weapons for the most part. They both heavily rely on like area denial, you know, as part of their jobs. You know, one with air blast, the other with just damage. And they both, like, the way they play are, they're not like that different actually. Like with like protecting the combo in Highlander and stuff, or like in casual, like you just kind of have like a pocket medic and you just kind of go crazy. But oh well, for Pyro a little bit less because you can afford being a bit more independent with Pyro. But the thing is that heavy, unlike Pyro, has no afterburn. He requires direct line of sight to deal damage. Meanwhile, like Pyro has options to hit people with the detonator or the squirt shot behind corners. He very much relies on direct combat. He can't pick his fights at all. You know, like even with something like the Gru, old or new, like you couldn't reposition very easily. It was kind of solved back then with the old eviction notice. I remember that got some use because it was easier to reposition with it with like the Tomislav and stuff. But, you know, obviously that weapon's gone now, so you can't even do that anymore. You could kind of do it with current Gru, but honestly, you'd lose like 50 health doing it every time. And then you'd have to like re-rev and stuff, and then you'd have to deal with ramp up again, which we'll get to. He very much like was just kind of like, if you ran at him, he would always win. But the issue was that with him was that like if you didn't run at him, he would always lose to indirect combat. If you spammed him out, if you like went a pit class, if you just jumped him when he was like retreating or something. He couldn't retreat at all, by the way. That's always been another weakness of heavy. He could never retreat. So already, like, as a class, this is pre-Love and War, by the way. This is pre-Love and War. You had to deal with ramp up, you had to deal with speed. He could only deal damage in sight, and he was like again a very balanced character competitively. You know, he wasn't a problem in sixes or Highlander, in my opinion. There really weren't like that many issues with him in casual outside of like heavy stacking. Which, by the way, if you're gonna say like a class being stacked determines like how good they are, then sniper's a bad class because stacking snipers suck, and so does stacking medic, right? So obviously like stacking classes doesn't really mean anything, because if anything, I think like stacking heavies isn't even the most broken strategy. A full fucking team of soldiers can probably beat a full team of heavies, in my opinion. But you don't see people asking soldier to get nerfed, right? But so already like heavy had a lot of weaknesses that restrained him, and you could argue that he needed some playstyle variety and buffs even back then. Much less now after he's nerfed. And while they did soften the nerf, it ended up like really not meaning actually that much. And that's not to even like mention that like as the game went on, other classes got new unlocks to, you know, make them more fun, new or old. And like a lot of those unlocks, I don't think people realize just like how annoying they are to deal with as like a heavy main, for example. Like, for example, for the scout, you have this has been out for a while, but like the Force of Nature, Atomizer, you know, Soda Popper, Cleaver, and Rap Assassin, the old Sandman. You know, all those things were already like really fucking annoying, and still are really fucking annoying. Outside of like the Sandman to deal with as the heavy. You know, the soldier has the fucking direct hit, which can just 3-tap you. He has the buff banner, which can just run you over. Battalions and conch actually, which basically just make sure the damage you do to him just doesn't even fucking matter anymore. While the conch also turns him into a fucking scout. You know, the Pyro got the Dragon's Fury. Well, he still has it, and it still does well into heavy because hitting 1 pixel on the heavy isn't the hardest thing in the world. You know, not only that, but he also gets the scorch shot. Demo Man gets to have the fucking, you know, like the loose cannon, lock and load. You know, he can just snipe people with the lock and load. Back then, it did even more damage. You know, and he even got an entire like new playstyle within like the shields. Engineer. So when people say they don't want heavy to become an offensive class, I actually disagree, because guess what? The fucking engineer can become like a generalist basically. Outside of sixes, the engineer is actually a pretty generalist fucking class because of the gunslinger. you know, and the dispensers and stuff. It's like with the gunslinger, he becomes like a fucking annoying piece of shit flanker that just sits there and just spawns minis all fucking day. And on top of that, he gets like the Widowmaker, the new panic attack, which can 3-shot heavy. You know, the medic, the medic has a fucking melee that gives him 25% more uber. That's pretty fucking broken. He gets a crossbow that burst heals people really fucking quickly. Like, it basically doubles your heal rate already. And on top of that, he has the vaccinator, which makes the people you're shooting even harder to kill. The sniper, you can just ignore your class counter as a sniper. You don't even have to ignore a class counter. You can just fuck over pyro because you feel like it. And as well as like the machina and stuff, which is basically he gets a straight upgrade basically. On top of the fact that sniper as a class already is fucking stupid, right? Like the fact that you can basically 150 body shot a medic, in my opinion, that's like fucking retarded, right? That just shouldn't be in the game. He doesn't get tracer rounds, you know, he just sits in the back all day and just kind of like picks at people without really anybody challenging him, because guess what? They nerfed the fucking ambi. You know, they nerfed the fucking ambi. They nerfed the Sandman so you can't toss the fucking ball at him anymore. They nerfed the lock and load so you can't effectively one-shot him anymore. And he basically just remains unchallenged. And Spy, well, a lot of the things for Spy, I actually feel like as bad for Spy mains because a lot of their shit got gutted, you know, like Dead Ringer, Ambi, and stuff like that. But at the very least, like, they kind of have some compensation because they get, like, you know, like, the problem with Spy is that, like, oh, he constantly goes 1-1 at best. He has unlocks that can solve this. You know, like, in my opinion, the Kunai and Big Earner solve this pretty well. You know, like, granted, his playstyles, he also lacks playstyle variety, especially after they fucking nerf the Ambi again. I know I'm bringing up the Ambi a lot, but like that's gonna get its video eventually. But he at least like had different playstyles back then. And again, all of those weapons like beat heavy pretty hard, right? And there's nothing wrong with this, you know. I'm sure they didn't design the direct hit in mind with the fucking expectation of, oh, this is gonna screw with heavy. No, obviously not. This just happens to negatively affect him in the soldier matchup. But so when you already have all of this, right, your thoughts would be like, oh, let's, you know, like, give heavy something to like fight back against all of this, right? And nothing broken like a 75% rev down for the Tomislav, no, but like something more reasonable, right? Like you would think like, oh, you know, that's what I would try to do. And like they did at the time like try to compensate for the minigun, because I think originally it was like 2 seconds of rev up. The spread was even worse. And so they were already on a good track of like, okay, let's just slowly give the minigun buffs at the time, you know, like let's make sure at the very least, like, if heavy doesn't get unlocks that really change his game plan since the sandwich, and maybe like the Fist of Steel and Gru, then we're gonna give him his minigun like something to keep up, right? So with all of that being said, why the fuck was it in Valve's first instinct upon heavy like catching up with the other classes to fucking like rape him into oblivion? To like, because the stupid fucking nerf, okay? If and people will say it's because of like bunny hopping. People will say, oh, it affected the scout matchup too much. All they could have done was just increase the rev up slightly again, you know? Just increase the rev up just enough to the point where you couldn't bunny hop. But you want to know what they fucking did instead? You want to know what they fucking did? So back then it was even worse, where upon 1 second of not firing, Heavy's fucking damage and accuracy were reduced by 50%. 50 fucking percent. And now it's just like, oh, upon your rev up initially, you only do half your damage. It already takes like a second to rev up. So then you have to wait another second, which would be 2 seconds, which you might as well be using stock minigun at that point. Basically 2007 minigun at that point. You might as well be using 2007 minigun at that point, because you're not doing any fucking damage, because your damage and accuracy got halved. So you change it to 2 seconds of the fucking ramp up, right? So already, like, this is like just the worst fucking thing they could have done. This is the most piece of shit update I think I've ever seen to a class, outside of like the Demo Man one, which Valve should just stop making ramp up changes. Demo Man, like, just nerf like Demo Man's damage by like 15% overall on stickies. That would have been more fair than whatever the fuck they tried like doing to him with the stupid ramp up. You can still feel the ramp up today. It's not as bad as back then, but even like today, like there's some damage inconsistencies. But so people will often defend this change. You know, they'll be like, oh well, heavy still does a lot of damage. I can still top score with him. Yeah, guess what, retard? Anybody can top score with heavy, because you want to know what most heavies have? Pocket medics. You know? You want to know why? Because heavy, at the end of the day, is still this fucking big guy who screams with a gun that keeps medics safe, right? But if you want to play him solo at all, guess what? You want to like try to flank him, guess what? You're gonna get fucked by a 50% accuracy debuff and a damage debuff on top of that. And they'll be like, oh, but heavy still does a lot of damage. Really? How much fucking damage do you think heavy does? Oh, he does 500 DPS. Okay, alright. So there's this revolutionary concept called sustain damage, and if you sustain a heavy's fire for literally one straight second, which in TF2 is a lot, because guess what, you're constantly moving, then yes, that's a lot of DPS. But realistically, you're doing half of that. And they'll be like, oh, well, 250 is still a lot, right? Well, again, 250 in 1 second because you're at mid-range. So when you're actually fighting people that are moving, it's more like, what, like 150, 125, 175 at, like, mid-range. And already, like, with how inaccurate the minigun already is, that's, like, not that bad outside of, like, close range, right? And a lot of the times when heavies do get kills, it's either by like, corner revving at the time, or when they're already backed into a corner, right? So, let's just half your damage, and also on top of that, right? Because having the damage would have been bad enough, but you could live with that, because you could still kind of control the amount of damage you do, right? Because you could still aim with it. But Valve thought ahead, because they thought, hey, heavy can't play the game, you know? He's a defensive class. He can't be offensive at all. Let's nerf his accuracy by 50%. Let's basically make it so that, like, when you... Okay, let's basically make the minigun into, like, a defective penis, right? Like, when you pee, it just goes fucking everywhere. That's what they did to the fucking minigun, right? They made it go everywhere. He just shot nerf bullets at everywhere except your opponent. So you know that damage that the heavy was already supposed to, like, you know, like, deal through, like, sustain and stuff like I was talking about earlier? Alright, so imagine, like, the numbers I previously mentioned, cut them in half, but actually cut that in half again, because the fucking bullet would just literally not go where you want it to go, right? Like, the bullet would literally just troll you. So, let's say he already does 500, right? Okay, half that damage initially. Okay, that's 250. Alright, half that accuracy. So let's just assume, like, only half of those bullets hit, right? Okay, now you're doing 125. That's barely enough to kill a spy in a second during sustain, right? Most spies you can fucking miss a stab against a heavy unrevved, and normally the heavy should be able to kill you for it, like every other class. If you as a spy miss a stab on every other class could kill you instantly, outside of maybe sniper if he doesn't have Dorati Bushwhacker. Heavy, he can't. All of a sudden, he can't, right? And he's like the big strong guy, so that makes even like less sense, right? So already within that second, you're dealing so little fucking damage, and you could be saying, oh, you know, like, just rev up beforehand. That's a reasonable request, you know, just rev up a little bit beforehand. Alright, smart guy, let's talk about revving up a little beforehand, right? That would make sense, right? That actually does solve a little bit of the problems. Like, again, if you see my heavy gameplay earlier, a lot of the times I hardly came into a situation unrevved, and when I got jumped when I was unrevved or moving, I did almost die. But yes, staying revved is important. It was important back then. It's even more important now. Okay, that's fine. Except here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. That's in, like, the ideal situation, you know, hypothetically, when someone doesn't get into your backlines, or, like, when you have a teleporter up and you don't have to move that much at all, and, you know, just stuff like that. Then yes, over there, fine, stay revved all you want. But remember what I said about heavy already, like, being the least versatile class in the game? You remember when I said that? Well, now somehow they made him even less versatile, because now you're having your fucking damage even more if you try to play him more aggressively. Now, if you want to move more often, you're more at a risk of getting jumped by literally anything. Scout, spy, getting sniped. Because guess what? Even if you're moving, you're still sniper bait, you know? You're rate bait for sniper mains. Because guess what? You have this big-ass fucking noggin, and you're not going very fast. And guess what? Even though you're already not going fast, you have to slow yourselves even more to get the fucking speed to get the damage that Heavy's advertised to have. So already, he's already extremely not versatile. He's very linear already because of that. But not only that, when I said that Heavy was balanced by health and power, when you nerf his power, he has to take more blows. He has to take more blows, which affects his survivability, and that affects his entire role. Because the reason why he's powerful is because he had the damage to just take and deal even more damage to you, except that like he couldn't move. That was his weakness, was that he couldn't move very fast, so he would always be late to the party. But it was always worth getting Heavy to the front lines if you could. But now you need to wait even longer for Heavy to even get his damage. Already it's very hard to run like a Heavy, because it takes so much commitment to even run it. Not even like the difficulty of playing Heavy, but like the difficulty of your team playing around the Heavy to make sure he has a teleporter up. He has someone to not even a pocket medic, just have someone to like heal him and protect him while he like waits and like revs up and like helps like guard him and stuff. And he doesn't provide any support value the same way that a medic or an engineer would already have. He's just basically like a sentry on wheels right now, right? Except every time you have to move the sentry, you basically have to rebuild another mini sentry to use your gun again, right? Except it doesn't become a 2v1, it's just a 1v1. So already the Heavy is like crippled mobility wise. It might be a nerf to him offensively, but also nerfed him defensively as well. For example, let's say you're in like Swiftwater last, right? Last second push, everybody's pushing the cart. The engineer's down. You just got there and you're about to rev up your gun. And jump down there. Except guess what? Now you're gonna get mauled alive because for the first second of you revving, and by the way, you couldn't wait because otherwise the other team would win. Otherwise, there'd be nothing stopping the other team, right? So you jump down there and you try to quickly just buy your team some time, get a couple kills, and maybe that'll be enough to end the push. But guess what? You did maybe 100 damage if you're lucky. Because your bullets got nerfed, and by the time you got the ramp up was over, you were already at like 145 health, and like the other Heavy or the other soldier or the other scout just meat shot you, and you're dead, and they just win, right? So already Heavy can't even do his job properly as a defensive class anymore, because guess what? You still need to like make it to the back line to play defensively, You still need to you still need to be there, You still need to move to play defensively. You need to play like a very like proactive game. But like Heavy gets punished for playing proactively, which makes even less sense if you want to say defensive class shouldn't be offensive, because the other defensive classes have plenty of offensive tools. Demo Man's defensive tool is a fucking offensive tool. Engineer gets the fucking gunslinger. Why can't Heavy at least like be like the slow, powerful bruiser that pushes through the front lines without constantly having like a 50% accuracy and damage debuff every single time he unrevs? Like that logically just doesn't make any sense, because the way they treated the other defensive classes, and you could say like, oh well, Heavy's a very powerful and volatile class. The Sentry isn't. Stickies aren't. Like why the Heavy? Why the Heavy? They buff the Scout's fucking pocketing potential. You could say, oh, Heavy being too good at offensive might affect other classes' roles pushing. Then why do they make Scout the best flanker in the game, one of the best, probably the best pocket medic class actually outside of Heavy? Because guess what? To keep a medic alive, the one thing better than to give him a sandwich every once in a while is to give him fucking Scout speed, so you can get out of pretty much every situation. Why did Valve give them that? That doesn't make any sense. If we're talking about like keeping classes balanced, why do they give him that? And why does nobody talk about it anymore? Because clearly it actually did affect the metagame. You know, it did affect the Sixes metagame, which which Valve supposedly cares about. It affected casuals because now any scout that runs nearby a medic can basically give a medic a free speed boost that affects med drops if you're playing spy, if you're playing sniper, if you're playing other scout yourself, you know. And not only that, but that would also make overhealed scouts a more common occurrence, and overhealed scouts are also really fucking annoying, you know. So with that being said, why would they give Scout such amazing buffs while Heavy basically has to get gutted over and over again? Is it because Heavy's easy? The Engineer has an option that literally auto-aims for him. The fucking Soldier literally shoots at your feet. The fucking Demo Man, M1, M2, M1, M2. You know? So why Heavy? Why did Heavy get nerfed so fucking hard? Some people say it's because, oh, he bunny hopped and got around his weakness too much. Okay, first of all, nobody actually lost a game because a fucking Heavy was... They're making it sound like the Heavy was essentially playing on a fucking surf map back in the day, you know? That he was always just like fucking like, oh, look at the Heavy. He was just constantly moving around. He's basically Sonic the fucking Hedgehog. No, that didn't happen, you know? Heavies, they corner peaked, they did all that, and it was effective, but because it help them get around corners as much as they could, right? You could still corner spam a Heavy, right? You could still corner spam a Heavy back then. Now, if you're in a corner against a Heavy, if he even tries to close the gap, he's basically just forced to run away. He can't fucking fight. He can't fucking fight you without an overhealed medic, making him even more medic reliant. Because guess what? If he tries to approach a corner peeking soldier, 300 health, that's gonna go away real fucking quick. You know, because when he's closing the gap, he's gonna either A, try to bunny hop anyways and constantly reduce his damage and accuracy, B, just rev up when he gets there, which means that he's fighting his soldier at close range, which means that puts him at Rocket's max ramp up range, which lets him 3-shot it, and by the time he revs up, he basically get one more rocket to kill him, right? So he wouldn't be able to do anything, or C, just run away. The Scout matchup, even worse, you know. Already Heavy, you know, like back in the day, like if a Scout jumped a Heavy, Scout has the advantage, right? But the Heavy, at the very least, it's like if the Scout was playing sloppy, you could, or like he was moving in predictable patterns, you could rev up and you could kill him, you know, just like every other class. Now, if a Scout gets the jump on you, he basically just wins the interaction for free. He wins the interaction for free. There's nothing stopping him anymore. Forget trying to escape a Scout as Heavy. You were already too slow. That's part of his design. You're already too slow. But guess what? Now you're too weak to fucking fight back. So all that health you have, it's basically it's just one like more like big frag for him, you know? It's just one more big frag for the Scout. So already you can already see how, like, by nerfing Heavy's damage, you basically nerf everything about him and kind of just make him so much unnecessarily weaker as a class. And was it that Heavy's winning too many games? Even back then that wasn't true. The main game winners back then were medics. You know, you wouldn't nerf a medic? Okay, a medic's a support class. Fine. Okay, what about soldiers and demos? At the highest level of play, and even in casual, guess what? The Heavy's not the main one pushing. Those two are. You wouldn't suggest nerfing them, but they're generalist. Okay, even then. How, like, in a casual match, even back then, when the Engineer had, like, what, 130 metal dispensers? I mean, 130 metal teleporters? They still won more matches for you than a Heavy did. You know? Now, granted, you could say, oh, Heavy pocket medics, you know, they're curb stomps, you know, and, like, you know, like, they're good last holds. Like, that might be true. Like, a Heavy might clutch up for you, but they weren't they weren't, like, the main ones, like, consistently pushing for victory. They were just, like, either, one, already steamrolling you because, you know, Heavy by nature is just, like, you know, being a brute and all. Like, that's what he does, you know? Like, that's what like, fucking... Abigail and SF5 did, even after his nerf. You know, he just steamrolls bad players. You know, that's part of Heavy's design. You know, like DDD and Smash Ultimate, literally the worst fighting game character ever designed, and even then he can still win against like 9-year-olds at a fucking birthday party. That's what Heavy is, right? I don't think Heavy, as a class, his main strength should be like raping 9-year-olds. You know, that's just something that it should not. You shouldn't balance a class around like, oh, well, you know, we keep him weak just because he's too oppressive against bad players. No, get good, you fucking you get good, you fucking dunce. You know, like it's again, like I don't get it. Every conceivable reason I can see to nerf heavy just falls completely flat to his face. You know, if anything, he already should have gotten buffed back then. For example, okay, he can't flinch snipers for some reason with his minigun. Why not? Why not? You know, every other class can. He does in the sniper flinches at the minigun in the trailer. Why can't he flinch in game? I don't know. Maybe it's because the people who balanced this game after 2013 were maybe like high. You know, they were maybe smoking meth and they were like, yeah, man, the sniper, honestly, he already has so many things going against him, man. Like honestly, we should make quickscopes do 175, man. Like honestly, dude, we should just let him give him have the classic charge, put it like on every sniper rifle. That'd be cool, man. The heavy, are you tripping, man? That would be way too good, man. Like that's what I'm assuming is happening at the office, because like the fact that like the heavy got nerfed as hard as he did and the sniper basically walked away untouched is so fucking like insane to me. I'm not even asking for a quickscope nerf. I'm not even asking for like a sniper nerf in itself. Because guess what? Like back then, at the very least, a sniper had an actual solid check with Spy and the Ambassador. He doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't have that anymore. And you could say, oh well, technically in Love and War, you can't jump while scoping in. I mean, he can't scope in while he's jumping. It's like, okay, like what does that actually fucking matter? What does that actually fucking matter? It doesn't really matter that much, you know. He's still the best class in the game outside of medic. Like what's your fucking point? And speaking of which, when you slow yourself down even more, this is just a cherry on top. As heavy, you're even more vulnerable to snipers. So you already like have to take so fucking long to get to the battlefield, and then on top of that, after you're revving up, you basically don't fight anybody because guess what? There's a fucking sniper sightline watching, so you gotta wait for like your snipers to finish a fucking dick sword fight before you even jump in and like start doing shit. All right. So already it's the balancing philosophy of nerfing heavy just logistically it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. He's not overpowered. He wasn't broken competitively, unlike like something as ridiculous as the fucking base jumper. You know, in casuals, he's not even the most like oppressive class. You know, at that point, okay, because that would make sense. But they kept giving the flog buffs. You know, they kept giving the flog buffs. So honestly, like if they nerf the heavy but buff the fucking flog pyro, at the time it's like what the fuck is up with that? You know, they didn't nerf sniper either. Casual players hate sniper too. You know, and even then, I don't think casual players hating something means something that you should nerf something. In fact. Throughout TF2's history, very few weapons should have gotten nerfed. I think the only weapons in that heavy ever had that actually even needed a nerf, was maybe Sandwich dropping a medium health pack for you. The Tommy Slav with a 75% and the Tommy Slav with the 75% rev down speed. That was kind of crazy. That was pretty crazy. But like even something like the Fist of Steel, like really? This is like the one thing heavy has in the sniper matchup right now. And by the way, if the heavy has a Fist of Steel out, you can basically like he's so fucking vulnerable, right? He can't fight back. He even without the ramp up, he still has to pull out his gun with the holster penalty, and you can still do that holster trick, but that still takes a bit. So I mean it reduces it by a lot, but you still have it, and then you still have to rev up again. That takes that amount of time just to like be a little bit tankier for a moment is already like not worth it, right? And like unless if you're like constantly being like overhealed and stuff, but even then it's like you're still with your fucking fists out, and you can get like fucking like one shot by the market gardener, dude. Like come on, be fucking serious. Like the Fist of Steel, if the heavy has his Fist of Steel out, he's basically neutered as a threat. Like he's basically not real as a threat, especially now. especially not anymore. What else? Like okay, I'll say my piece on the Gru. I don't mind it as much as other old heavy mains. Like the way the Gru works now, it is a better escape option. I just think it's kind of redundant because that's what the Fist of Steel did anyways. But it's fine. Like you can still use it to like get to places and stuff. Like for small trips, it's better. But my bigger issue with it is the fact that these geniuses thought it'd be a good idea to put it on the fucking eviction notice, where it already was like never a problem. I don't even think it got banned in sixes. And if you don't know, sixes just loves like banning everything that makes heavy even like remotely close to mid. They banned the fucking stake, for example. And they didn't ban the eviction notice. I think that that's like a sign that like says. And by the way, you shouldn't take the opinions of sixes players very seriously. They banned the detonator. You know, if we went by sixes players, we would the fucking detonator would get nerfed. You know, so honestly, don't even like they nerfed the base jumper. The base jumper is still banned by them. You know, so obviously the game they're playing is very different from us. You know. In fact, don't take competitive players' opinions like that seriously in general. It was fucking Sigafu who got the ambassador nerf. Don't forget that. Don't forget that name, Sigafu. But yeah, like overall, like I just can't wrap my head around any reason for sniper. I mean, not sniper, heavy to get nerfed. Sorry, it's fucking. I hate the class. It's kind of weird because I don't want to say I want to nerf sniper, right? Because honestly, like as much as I hate sniper, I think that there's no way to nerf him without making him fucking useless. You could say like tracer rounds and stuff, but honestly, like even then that either wouldn't be that much of a nerf in the first place, or it just be too much and make him useless. And honestly, like currently right now, like I don't trust Valve with any nerf because like what if they gave fucking sniper ramp up? You know, people suggest giving sniper like this reverse ramp up thing. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't make his shots have reverse damage fall off. Don't remove quick scoping, you know. I think at the very least, sniper's body shots should do 120 at most. You know, because I think the fact that you can just skip sniper battles or just get med drops with body shots, I think that's just stupid. I think if you're gonna play a high skill class that requires headshots, I think you should actually be able to like be forced to go for the headshots, but I don't really know how to touch them outside of that. But as far as potential heavy buffs in the future, I mean, I don't like TF2 Classic that much, but the anti-aircraft cannon thing, that's a cool idea because it solves the issue of corner peeking, where you can just kind of just splash people behind corners. I like that idea. Granted, it fucking mini crits anybody in the air, which I get the name, but honestly, that's just mean. It does burst damage too, which what was it, like 75? That's pretty solid, honestly. It also has a limited range before it just blows up in the middle of the air. That's cool. I mean, something like that being added for the heavy could be fun. Yeah, like for like the best way I can compare it is if you've ever played Garden Warfare, it's kind of like what Rugby Star has. Where it's like slower shots but with explosive damage, which I think that's a fun little way to mix up Heavy's game plan. What I don't like is for people to like just ignore the miniguns and just pretend like, oh, the miniguns are fun as they are. Let's just make Fast Scout a viable playstyle. Like again, I don't mind the fourth slot idea. Like it makes sense. Heavy even has it in Team Fortress Classic, but like I feel like you could probably buff him without adding it. And like it does remove the choice between shotgun and sandwich, which you could say is important, even though sandwich will always win out no matter what if you're playing even remotely seriously. And it's not like you can nerf the sandwich too, because it's already a balanced weapon. You have to wait 5 seconds to fully heal yourself, of just standing still, right? And like it never really like again like people are happy with the way the sandwich is, so you can't really nerf it either. So like I understand where the 4 slot people are coming from. I'm not inherently against it. I just think there's probably a better way to do it, especially because like a 4 slot. I don't know how Valve could possibly add that. Obviously, get rid of the fucking ramp up. But if you're too pussy to get rid of it fully, at the very least, get rid of the accuracy penalty. Keep the 50% damage penalty, whatever. That's bad, but get rid of the fucking accuracy penalty. Or, even better, you could just, like, get rid of it and Heavy would probably still be balanced. They did it at Castaway. You wanna know what's not broken in Castaway? There's a lot of things broken in Castaway. You know what's not one of them? Heavy. Heavy's fine. You know? That's my fucking proof, you know? Like, you have, like, baby... I mean, granted, you could say, like, oh, well, there's baby face blaster, revert scouts running around, stuff like that. The old fucking escape plan and equalizer, the very first version of it, without the mini crits and like the increased damage, like yeah, that's dumb, and you could say like, oh, that's not an actual proper environment, but like, okay, fine. If you're really that fucking picky, you can just increase the rev up, you know, to not bunny hop, like 1.15 seconds, you know. And you could say like, oh well, that'd be redundant because you'd still just wait anyways. Well, the difference is that you're not waiting 2 seconds. You're only just waiting the rev up time, which you can actually see. You can see when you can rev up and when you can't. You know what you can't see? The ramp up. So a lot of new players, they're wondering when they pick up Heavy as well. Another reason why nobody plays them, when they're playing Heavy, they're thinking, oh, why am I not doing enough damage? It's because the game doesn't tell them about ramp up. It's hard to see. And like they just gotta figure it out by themselves. And I think that's also another reason why I'm against it, is because you can't actually fucking see it the same way. You could feel it, but you can't really see it visually. So a lot of new players just assume Heavy's bad, especially with all these new maps that you basically need a teleporter to play Heavy with, because they're just so fucking wide and the sightlines are so atrocious. Like that, what was that one map? Like Phoenix? Fuck that map. It's fucking huge for no reason. Give Sniper the world's godliest sightline. Like come on. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, like there's ways to make Heavy good without like ruining the game. I don't think Heavy would ruin the game if he was good, honestly, either. Unless if he was like better than like Soldier, but even at his peak, like he really wasn't. So I think people are just too scared of like an actual meta change up. And it's like a lot of people, like TF2 players, are very conformed. Like something like casual should already like kill a game like this, but like TF2 players are like, oh no, it's fine. But I mean, like, keeps breaking after every update. Like TF2 players will just eat the slop up. Like, I don't know. It's whatever though. The video's not about that. So yeah, I don't know. Overall, just it's never gonna happen. I don't think Valve's ever gonna do a balance change ever again. The closest they got was undoing the Iron Bomber bug, where it made the hitbox double the size. And I don't think they're gonna, and maybe the Rap Assassin one where it used to break instantly on Badwater. But outside of that, I don't think they'll ever do a balance change again, much less to the Heavy. Even though they promised us a Heavy update, I just don't think it's gonna happen. So yeah, it makes me a bit sad to think about, but honestly, it's whatever. But yeah, overall, that's the video. I've been working on this for quite a bit, and I know this just sounds like an unorganized rant, but hopefully I can raise awareness to this fucking issue that everybody just likes to not rightfully, the opposite of that, unrightfully ignore. And some people would ask me why I care so much. It's like, oh, it's not like the Heavy's useless now. I mean, like, technically it's true. Like, the Heavy still has defensive purposes. It's not like he's worse than like the Spy or anything like that. But like the point is that, like, by principle, this is still an unjust nerf that didn't need to happen. And even if you could play around it, I don't think you should, just because it's like, oh well, it didn't ruin the class. It's like, yeah, but it made him a lot less engaging, and it gutted his offensive capability. But hey, he's still good defensively. It's like, no. Like, every clash, in my opinion, should be as good as they can, without being broken. Meanwhile, a lot of TF2 balance videos I've seen are just every class should be, how do I nerf something without making this completely useless? You know? When in my opinion, they should much rather focus on something being good, and instead of constantly worrying about if something's overpowered or underpowered. And like, I think objectively, like, there's not that many things even overpowered in this game, but there's a lot underpowered, and I think that should get focused on. And I think the 3 classes that should be focused on are Pyro, Spy, and Heavy. But out of those 3, Pyro and Pyro gets the most attention. Granted, it didn't actually help that much, but he did. And Spy and Heavy have just kind of gotten neglected over the years, especially Heavy. So I really hope that changes. And again, it's not gonna change because Valve is like fucking retarded, so it's never gonna change. But hopefully one day, you know, like one day I could like at least revert it if the Heavy update does decide to come out, you know, because otherwise I recorded on casual for this because Castaway wasn't active at the time, but for now I'll just play mostly on Castaway where the minigun actually feels like an actual weapon and not like and not like me peeing with a boner, you know. So hopefully that'll be the end of this video. And again, like, it's cool to care about things, right? You know, like, it's cool to care about a character getting unfairly nerfed, or like, because like that's really what slop essays are all about. And granted, this is just another slop essay in the grand sphere of TF2 videos. This is like this is no different from anything else. So sorry for contributing to the slop essay crisis in TF2, but you know, I just figured like someone's got to talk about this because if we look us heavy mains, we're like black people, because if nobody else can stand up for us, you know, if a brother don't got no friends, he ain't nobody gonna stand up for us, you know. So you gotta fight for yourself, you know. You gotta fight for yourself. I think as heavy mains, it's very important to realize that we're like the black people of TF2, being unfairly blamed for shit that doesn't happen. So yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. Yeah, goodbye.